Hi, this is the revelations about evolution of universe from the start, the expansion of universe to the infinite, the reason of gravity from the center of mass, the revolution of stars around the center of galaxy, and the rotation of Venus to the opposite direction of other planets. This is of course the same to the previous post that the Big Bang is an illusion, but with the added bestowed points like the reason of the gravity is the hunger of the mass. Whether the earth attaches the man on its surface for later consumptions, or the man eats his co-evolved living things like plants and other animals. The gravity is nothing but the activities of the masses, either for existing or for existing and growing, by feeding themselves the energy through consumptions, inclusive of the masses, either by attracting or by grabbing. This is only the definitions. To understand, we need to know from the start of the universe. What did the Big Bang theory say? A tiny single particle had immense amount of heat and energy that exploded to create the universe, along with some fundamental particles in it, and is keeping on expanding like stretching cloth, along with the formation of bosons to galaxy. This could not be true. Why? At first, if at all anything start from scratch, it would start as simple, even though it would have emerged greater later. Second, literally, the explosion means destructions, even though it gets something out of it later. Third, life on the earth is evolved from microbes up to the human. So be the universe. It's all the evolution from the start, every time, everywhere. On first evolution, a single particle appeared. I call the particle as one for the understanding. On second evolution, the one set power to divide into two one as right and left without losing the bonding between them. They keep on multiplying like building blocks in all the directions. While splitting up into two, they shaped themselves as cube in order to occupy all the area without leaving any gaps on the bonding. Moreover, the cube shape enables piling up of themselves and sliding in between themselves. Take a sphere shape, for example. It necessitates something or at least nothing in between the curved shapes. As the one or the everything, there is no anything, even no nothing at all other than one. And even if you arrive to some other shape to fill up the gaps, it would find difficult to slide in between them. So the only shape they could adapt is the cube shape. The piling up of one seem like strings of beads in all the direction of the universe. The multiplying of one is the factor to the expansion of the universe eternally. On third evolution, the multiplying process of the bond creates sliding between them. Subsequently, the frictions. That frictions combine few of the bonds to create the new particles here and there with different characters due to the different amount of frictions produced out of slide. I call that particle as mass particle for the understanding. The mass particle was shaped into sphere due to the pressure of one from outside. And the sphere shape enables the mass particle to pass through in between the bond. The mass particle comes with lots of one in them. And fourth evolution, as the mass particle is evolved from the one, it needs more one for the existing. So it started consuming the one. That seems like the strings of one are flown into the mass particles through all the angles. But consuming one alone would be sufficient for some of the mass particles. Need more for existing existing and growing. That need is the hunger, the reason of gravity. So, by consuming the strings of one, they started attracting and consuming the other mass particles nearby. That is the gravity. To understand fully, we will look at a simple explanation about formation of masses. When two mass particles are nearby without any disturbances in the strings of one, they would attract each other because in between the mass particle, the conceptions of one are doubled, exceeding the multiplying of one. That makes the two mass particle to flow towards each other. After reaching, both the mass particle either stayed as separate particle, attaching themselves, or combining into a new mass particle. Attached particle are double the size of combined particle, but both are the same mass, consume same amount of warmth. Like two persons each are eating half kg of food in 10 minutes versus one person is eating 1 kg of food in 10 minutes. Combined particle are much denser and stronger in consuming more volume and length of strings of warmth than attached particle with the same size. I'm mentioning here attaching and combining only for the understanding of the density of the masses, not the formation, because lots of formation processes are there for the masses. Becoming the larger the mass consumes huge volumes of strings of warmth through all the angles. The conception always starts from the core through all the angles of the masses. More the dense, more the radius of the masses consumed, more the fast, more the length of strings of warmth through all the angles. The strings of warmth are flowing into the larger mass through consumption or power the small masses consumption. Hence, the small masses that are consuming the strings of warmth nearby are attracted toward the larger mass core. This process of making inclusion or attempting to make inclusion of the masses is the gravity, either by attracting or by grabbing, either to attach as part of it or to consume, to make part of it. The gravity is main fundamental to the formation and activities of the masses. Whether the stars are attracting the planets are attaching other things, or the trees are sucking up water, and the animals are eating the plants and other animals. Among the men, the gravity has taken many dimensions, like one of them is desire. I can compare the burning of the bond to the lovingness, the gravity of the masses to the possessiveness. Anyway, the masses are not alone. They always have the one in them more than themselves. The gravitation pulling and self combinations make few of the masses to spin themselves like stars and electrons. Take the solar system. The sun, being the larger mass, consumes huge volumes of strings of warmth through all the angles. The sun also rotates, so do the planets, all in one direction, assuming horizontally anti-clockwise. The Venus retrograde rotation, I'll come later about that with Uranus odd rotation. Now focus on sun rotation. Take center circumference as equator, top and bottom as poles. The sun rotation along the equator due to the maximum rotating circumference. Drag strings are worn in huge volume and great length. And towards the poles, due to the minimum rotating circumference, drag strings are worn in reducing volume and decreasing length. Moreover, the conception by the masses always start from the center, a single point of the core, through all the angles. The rotation by the masses always start from the axis, a straight line between the poles through one angle. So, the sun rotation aligns with the string conception along the equator, and on the poles it tends to be on a right angle. As the sun is the gas ball, it freely rotates along the equator due to the alignment with the conceptions and reduce the speed of the rotation gradually towards the poles due to the non-alignment with conceptions. So strings dragging happens along the equator even more faster and longer. To the reverse, the sun consumes the strings of warmth. The gravity happens freely along the poles due to the minimum dragging and reduces the conceptions towards the equator due to the disturbances from the maximum dragging. The conception and rotation differences by the sun vary slightly between the poles and the equator because these are confronting only the disturbances, but the strings of one dragging differences by the sun rotation vary very exponentially, like almost no dragging at all at exact pole, and zillions and zillions and zillions and zillions and zillions of dragging at the equator. If a planet comes or nearly forms along the poles, it would either be attracted or make erratic movements. When the planet comes or nearly forms along the equator, it would start to revolve. How? The strings of warm conception by the sun overpowers the planet conceptions. The strings are warm, dragging by the sun rotation. In huge volume and great length, makes a very long length of circulating strings of warm, like circulating waves, around the equator of the sun. The strings of warmth that are flowing into the sun through sun conceptions carry the consuming planets towards the sun. By flowing into the sun, the strings of warmth that are circulating around the sun by sun rotation carry the planets to the side of the sun. So, with both the movements towards and side, the planets are carried around the sun. The strings are one dragging the sun rotation and are the factors to make the planets to revolve around the sun. The strings of one rotation and conception by the sun rotation are the factors for making the planets to revolve around. But the revolving speed of the planets differs to the sun rotation line due to the circulating speed of the strings of one. They could not get hold of the planet with the same set of strings and are moving the planet with a series of circulating strings. Further, the strings of one dragging strength gets weaker with the distance from the sun. The tail of the strings of one follows slowly the line, making the movements to create the spiraling pattern. We can witness that in the spiraling pattern of the galaxy that billions of stars are being carried by series of circulating strings that are formed through rotation and conception by the center of the galaxy. So, the closest planet, the traveling speed will be greater than farthest planet traveling speed from the distance of the sun. The sun rotation determines the traveling speed of the planets, not the self motion. If the self motion is the factor, the planets would have got the speed, own speed, randomly, not gradually as it is happening in reality now, by the distance from the sun. The sun rotation also makes the planet to revolve around uniformly in circular path or rather slight elliptical path. Either a star like Mars or center of the galaxy at far on the aphelion side should attract the planet little away from the sun to make elliptical path. Inside the galaxy, the multiplying of one are almost balanced out with the conception of one. But outside the galaxy, the conception of one are very much limited. Hence, the distances between the galaxies are getting faster and longer. So is the expansion of the universe eternally. Now, the Venus retrograde rotation. The foreign object impact theory could apply only to the Uranus odd rotation, not to the Venus retrograde rotation, because just an impact could not make on a planet all the way to flip upside down in stride exactly. At the beginning, the sun and all the planets were rotating horizontally, assuming anti-clockwise. The planets were trapped in the circulating strings to revolve around the sun. The touching the brushing process of the bond, strings of bond, are not only dragging the planets to the side, they are also attempting to rotate the planets to the opposite direction because the strings dragging happens to the opposite direction of the planet's rotation. This attempt at first slow down the anti-clockwise rotation and then would start the clockwise rotation. This slowing down and opposite rotation would take billions of years to happen and would start from the closest planet from the sun. Then why the Venus took the front before Mercury? Some cell combinations like atmosphere or mass content added to that slowing down faster. After slowing down to the stand, the Venus has got aligned with strings draggings slowly now to the clockwise rotation. Anyway, the Venus will be gaining speed of clockwise rotation in the future, while all the other planets will be slowing down of anti-clockwise rotation. So, the time will come for the earth to witness the sunrise on the west. Before that happens, the moonrise will happen on the west. And fifth evolution, the edge is set for the masses. All the masses have the beginning, the ending, and in between the both, they have the life. But ending is only for the masses, not the characters it has gained along the life. Star explosions are meant of transmitting its character to the other masses, even to the faraway galaxies. Likewise, the planet Earth has got all the characters to transform into a compatible place for the life to be evolved. The man is transferring his characters to the other man before dying to transform towards one more evolutions. Hence, a destruction of masses, either by explosion or by degeneration, are one more means of helping evolution through transmitting and transforming. On sixth evolution, life is evolved on planet Earth. The varied characters from varied masses transmitted to the Earth and settled and transformed into many dimensions like air, water, soil, chemicals, metals, minerals, and so on. Some of the characters knew that it didn't belong here, and they attempted to escape from the planet Earth. That escaping effort began the new dimension of masses that we call the life, and have taken many evolutions, transformations, and formations. The trees were trying to escape by growing taller, and the animals by moving in search of places to escape, the birds by flying, the men by adopting everything. We will discuss about this evolution in detail from microbes up to the human another time. So, it's all the evolution from the start, every time, everywhere. The explosion is only the part. The Big Bang is an illusion. The one. Is it a mass? Of course it is. Because all the other masses are generated by them. The one also are the masses. If it's nothing, you just can't get anything out of zero unless you add or put anything in it from outside. But even the vacuums are the one. So we are in compulsion to set the one as base or zero to find the difference to the other mass. We have been calling the one a space or nothing and going on searching for some fundamental particles in it. There are only two in the universe. The first is the one. Even though in multiples, they are one. The second is the masses in plethora of dimensions. Some of them are photons, boson, electrons, neutrons, protons, atoms, molecules, gases, stars, planets, plants, animals, and we.